Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. Today's episode is a real treat for me because this is an old and dear friend of mine who I have seen go through a lot, and you know, we've walked through some things, and he was actually on some earlier episodes, one of which was on feelings, which is quite a gift to have men share about their feelings at all, let alone on a show. So that was good, and if you're interested in that, just go back to some of the earlier episodes and catch that. But what we never did was we never really shared about Carter's journey, journey growing up, journey through addiction, journey through PTSD, journey through healing things and changing things and discovering more about himself. And he's somebody who I respect immensely. He's very, very focused on helping other people to find their light, and he really goes deep. You know, he's an avid reader. He's an avid seeker. He wants to know the truth. He wants to understand in context what's been going on in his mind, to understand himself and to become more useful to other people. And man, he walks the walk. There's a lot of people today who could say that their sobriety was so positively affected by him working one-on-one with them. So I'm so grateful for you being here. How many years now are you sober?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. But we will get to the whole bigger journey of that. So as we normally do, we start off by talking about what it was like for little Carter. You know, kind of give us a little headspace, kind of camera into what it was like when you were growing up, where you were, how you viewed the world, to set the foundation for what you ended up having to walk through and face in yourself.
Sure. When I am the youngest of 4 kids, and we grew up in Palm Springs, California, and broken family and reconnected again. When I was 6 months old, my birth mother and father got a divorce, or were separated, and when I was 6, I had a sister 7 and a brother 6, and my mom laid us down for a nap, and
Your brother was the same age as you?
no, sorry, I was 6 months old.
Okay.
I was the youngest
Sorry.
of 3 at the time.
Gotcha.
My brother's 6 and sister 7, and my mom laid us down for a nap, and then turned on the gas. We were in a trailer, and then left. You know, and I didn't know anything about that per se. I wouldn't know until my stepmother told me, and so my mom went to jail, and we went and stayed with my dad in Palm Springs, in Cathedral City, and then you know, a couple of years after that, he met a woman, and she had already adopted a son, so we became a blended family, and I never knew we weren't blended. You know, I mean, for my purpose, I was too young, and but you know, we experienced a rupture of trust, you know, somewhere in the symbiotic relationship with my birth mother in that scenario, and then
Because you might not be old enough to be able to fully understand the experience, but that doesn't mean that you didn't have an experience of that disconnect energetically and knowing that something was not right.
Sure, in many spiritual walks or spiritual, you know, whether it's Buddhism or Taoism or whatever, they teach us that, and even Kabbalah, they teach us that our spirit picks up the energy of what's going on, and we adopt that. You know,
Absolutely.
We adopt the feelings of our mother. If they're fighting with their father, we adopt those things.
Mm-hmm.
If the father changes pitch or that fighting energy, we pick up all energies.
Yeah.
And
It's not hard to understand that if you think about just today, how you interact with people today. You feel their energy, you feel their moods,
Totally.
just interacting with people. So why wouldn't it also be that when you're even in the womb or you're growing up, that you wouldn't as well pick up those energies?
That's been the most enlightening thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and because Adam, I remember when I had my own children, the doctor said, I'm like, how do I clothe the baby? You do to the baby what you do. It's fully alive, you know. and I was like, oh yeah, you know, it's not like growing into being alive. It's fully there, and the spirit is fully present. And that rupture of trust, you know, that what I learned is it sends that, it receives, it hears, it observes, and our spirit, it receives that. And it can't talk about it, and it enters a state of grief. and that's what Bradshaw teaches. Is that spirit is now grieving and goes into conflict and cannot perhaps reconcile it. You know, and then the ego defenses and things start happening, and so you know, I could remember a lot of different things that happened with my stepmother. She had seizures, and so she was a co-addict with my father, but she could not do anything. So she's basically dry and sick. My dad was an alcoholic, and so we had a alcoholic family, and it was a big alcoholic family because everybody seemed to be alcoholic, you know, and everybody's always drunk around our neck of the woods, you know. High functioning drunks. Everyone owned their own business and stuff, but a lot of stuff going on. When I was probably 5, my stepmom said, "You have another mother, and she's coming today to see you. She tried to kill you when you were a baby."
Oh my God!
Yeah, that was my introduction, and that's where it started and stopped. I'm like, what? You know, and then,
in and of itself, the way that's being said is traumatizing.
Yeah, it was, and you know, she had her own issues, and it was like that most of my life, and
so she didn't like your mom at all.
She didn't like me.
No, she didn't like you either.
She didn't like herself. You know, she didn't like that. She didn't like my older sister. She only liked her own, which, you know, I understand. People have their own.
Yeah, but it does take a lot of work to get to that place of understanding. Otherwise, you take it on. You take it personally. You think it's about you and your worth. You know.
Yeah.
Especially when they're authority figures and they're older, and you're like, well, why don't you love me? I don't understand why you don't love me. How could you not love me? There must be something wrong with me. Because you're the authority. You're the one who has all the power.
Sure. I felt flawed and defective from an early age.
Yeah. I totally identify with that.
I felt worthless and like something was definitely wrong with me. And I didn't know.
It's hard when you don't have, I mean, because in recovery we have people we could talk to. It's like we don't have that when we're little, you know, and then we're so young that we don't have enough life experience or maybe conscious connection with our intuition in a proper way or something, maybe. But we don't have any context. We don't, how do we understand? How do we process? We don't have tools. Nobody around us has tools. And so when we feel that there's something wrong, we're so innocent in our perspective, like we don't understand what's wrong. Why is it wrong? And people also in addictive homes act like nothing to see here, everything okay, because nobody wants to look at themselves. And so then you go, okay, well, if you're saying you're okay, but I'm not okay, it must be me. It must be me then. And that's where that toxic shame starts.
That's where it starts. And the root of toxic shame is really that action on the parents. By what I've come to understand, or what we've come to understand, is that when a parent acts faultless, it becomes spiritual abuse. To us, as an infant and in our development, we need a parent that can say, hey, we humans make mistakes.
They're not even doing it. They're not even doing it necessarily consciously or on purpose.
Yeah,
they come from a long line of fake it till you make it. It's not me. It's them. It's them. But it is, even if not intentional, it is a form of gaslighting because it tells the child that it's not what you think it is. Like, don't trust your intuition. Don't trust what you see. Don't trust what you're experiencing. It's nothing to see here. Like, you're out of touch with it's your problem, because, and then you carry that as a burden psychically as a child. It becomes a heavier load. It becomes a heavier walk through your childhood. I experienced it. It's the reason why you and I are good friends, because we both had to walk heavier, darker perspectives of childhood, because we couldn't reconcile. We couldn't understand, especially because you need to be able to rely on the same people that are not necessarily healthy, for you. But you somehow we need to believe that we could trust them, but yet something's not right. It's just it just makes the whole thing very, very difficult,
It does. And I like how Bradshaw talks about the rupture of trust. We have more mistrust than we have trust.
Mm-hmm.
And therein lies the suppression of our intuition, which comes with there's a thing going on there spiritually inside of us, where now I'm overriding my intuition with toxic shame, shameful thoughts, and then I learn to bury my intuition and never rely on it. And then
that's the true abandonment rupture. That's the true issue, is that, because if you think about it, in recovery, everything's all about clearing out that channel so that we can climb back into our own skin, so that we can learn to live life on life's terms, but so that we can, to thine own self be true, so that we can get to that truth within, so that we could tap into that intuitive voice that speaks on behalf of our highest good, but so that we can meet ourselves maybe for the first time in years. Recovery restores the development of listening to intuition. And I'll say one more thing. It's kind of, and I'm sure you've experienced this. It's amazing how special or extra the idea of listening to intuition is to most people who get into recovery. They're like, oh, I can't. That's not me. That's somebody who's super religious or something, or that's somebody who has the ability to, maybe they're psychic or they meditate a lot, or that's a special person that can do something so special as actually hear intuition. I don't even know what God sounds like. There's no way I could possibly know. And there's so much that this natural experience of learning to live authentically and listen to our intuition becomes an abnormal experience to the mind that has been self-trained or trained in its environment to check out, to question itself so much that it doesn't, to question itself so much that it doesn't trust what it hears inside anymore. There must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with my judgment. I'm sick. I'm mental. There's nothing I can't really trust the thoughts that I have in my mind at all. I can't really trust what I really want, because what I am seems to conflict so much with the people in my life who are supposed to be my mentors growing up, the people who are supposed to teach me and comfort me or lead me and secure me, so that I can develop such a strong, healthy sense of self that I can go out in the world and recreate that in my own family.
Absolutely. And inside of what you just described, we began to develop our ego defenses, and my primary ones were overachieving, romanticism, magical thinking, and overgiving, because I come from overgiving, and we deal abandonment, neglect, abuse, and overgiving are the 4 causes of toxic shame to start, roughly, and
that's so interesting.
And
overgiving, overachieving,
overgiving, romanticism,
fantasizing how it's going to be better, right?
Yes.
Making it better than it actually is.
Yeah,
You know, downplaying the bad. We have to do that to survive, downplaying the bad and increasing the focus on what we think is good, distorting our own vision. So we will attract and stay in perpetually bad relationships because of that. We won't honor ourselves. And what was the last one? Magical thinking.
Magical thinking.
Somehow magically it's all going to change. It's all going to work. I don't need to set a boundary. I don't need to leave. I don't need to try for this. I don't need to feel those feelings. I don't need to face this. I just, you know what? It's all going to somehow, it's going to be okay, or it's okay, but it's not.
It's so amazing what you just said. But, you know, an addict, we're addicts as we develop codependency. You know, we're first codependent on our ego. So as we develop in codependency, we have, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Happens all the time.
Oh, shoot.
As addicts in codependency. Well, okay, so we'll come back to, okay.
Magical thinking. Magical thinking has been the most enlightening to understand inside of how that happens, which is we don't have a foundation of unconditional love. It's the unconditional love that gives us the foundation, and it's the unknown spiritual abuse from overgiving or flawlessness that takes away our ability to be grounded in like what you in the words you just said was about we're no boundaries. We're like a house without windows. We don't know what boundaries are.
You can't have boundaries in a house where there's so much dysfunction. You get rewarded for self-abandonment.
Yeah.
If you ask for what you need, or you say something's not okay with you, you get shunned, you get shamed, you get told that it's, you know, that there's something wrong with you. You're greedy, or you're needy, or selfish, or something, or a drama queen, or whatever, you know, like in my case. And so you learn that in order to protect yourself in a dysfunctional home, that you need to be a lot more good than you're ever really feeling, and you need to like avoid letting anyone see you not okay. And man, the perfectionism, the self-abandonment, the false self-development, who do I need to be okay in this world? Who do I need to be loved? And then we live in that. We live in that kind of false self, and then we never feel loved because nobody ever sees, not even us, who we really are.
Yeah, that's exactly how I lived. And
isn't the acronym for shame should have already mastered everything? You know, it's like we live in the overachieving, the fantasy, the magical thinking, the romanticism, right? What was the other one? What was the other one? Like overgiving. You know, like if you need me, I'm good. I'm good if you need me. You know, especially if you thank me. Especially if you praise me.
Yeah.
Like a good little girl. And I could be 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and like, still give me that praise, give me that praise. Yeah. Tell me what a good person I am. Tell me what a good person I am, so that I know that you're not going to go. You're not going to leave.
Yeah.
Whether or not I think you should stay or not is irrelevant. It's that abandonment rupture, that shame that says, wow, like if my mother could leave me and then my stepmother could not want me, then who do I need to be so that whoever else I'm with
will stick around. Yeah, and that's what I did my whole life. That explains our codependency. Yeah, everything. And so I started dating like
it was
junior,
a sport.
I mean, in elementary school, I'm like, I need a girlfriend then because everyone's going to leave me.
Like it was a sport.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, I developed some of the other reactive behaviors, which was carrying injustices, peacemaker, you know, victim, and judgment, you know, and to top it all off, you know, living in a perfectionistic system so we don't get hurt, and then just doomed for immediate failure at all times. And and I was the youngest, so they a lot of humiliation and belittlement and devaluing and teasing. You know, teasing is a great form of abuse, and when I'm I don't know, I'm talking different with men only. Right, some of you are the teasers, and some of you are the teased, and the teasers really don't understand the teased. You know, but teasing kills some people.
So I'm curious about this, okay? Because we both had the same foundational right? I was made fun of by the kids in school, and for years one can say that it was what they said and what they did that created so much pain for me and whatever. But as I went through my recovery, I realized that I did not have a strong sense of self to not take it personally. You know, they knew that when they said what they said that they would hit pay dirt. Because, first of all, anybody that knows me knows I wear all of my feelings. And so, like, there's no poker face. But I also had that foundational belief system that was like, something's wrong with me. It was a thought that just said, I'm unlovable, something's wrong with me. So what happened was, it was almost like my skin was on inside out as a little girl, and it was sticky. So what you would say to me, I would take, and it would stick. It was like, oh, that's another reason I'm not lovable. I'm trying to understand my world. Why am I not enough? Why am I not enough? You're giving me information. No. But I'm taking it as if it's information. Thank you for telling me who I am. And I would get more and more shame-based. It would be like lint to black pants. You know, like it would just, everything, being called ugly, being called fat, you know, a loser, all these things, like, who even cares about all that stuff or should care about all that stuff when you're a little girl? But the energy of it and the laughing and all that. So would you say that had you not had that kind of energetic rift in your sense of self as you were developing as a young kid, that anybody, if you had you been stronger and more solid, you probably, wouldn't you say you would have maybe handled and perceived it completely different?
Well, sure. I mean, you know.
And so that it wouldn't have been as much of us being necessarily the victim of being teased, but it's more so because of what happened before that gave us where we're not strong and anchored into enough of a sense of self where we could dismiss it. We couldn't dismiss it. We were already broken in how we perceived. And so because of it, it got in. It got in through the cracks, and it was attracted by the sense of self that was already shaken by what it was experiencing before it even knew consciously what it was experiencing.
Dr. Bradshaw talks about
yes.
how, and wonderfully said, he talks about how when we experience a rupture of trust, it sets up the need for insatiable cravings, for that people act out with ingestible things. It also sets up the need to be continually validated, as if our life would cease to exist without such validation, and it sets us up to feel flawed and defective as a human being. Insatiable cravings. So drugs, alcohol, food,
food, sex, spending,
anger,
everything.
And so
achieving.
So this is my experience. The need for validation was life or death for me.
Yeah.
And that's the root. The root of everything lies right there under the grief. That's where it is.
Yeah.
And so overgiving for me was to try to outwork the noise in my head.
Yes.
I began working at 7. I had worked 3 jobs from the time I was 11 to 40. Mm-hmm. And I come from workers. We try to outwork what's going on inside. Like maybe if I if I do this enough, this will go away,
Yeah.
and I'll be good, and I'll be the guy, the American, all American boy that everybody thinks I am.
Problem is that while it is true that we could be too busy to hear that stuff that's going on in our mind, behind all of that toxic shame is the voice of our intuition. Behind the stories of our false self and the stuff that should be questioned in a more clearer way is our true self. You know, we are so focused as little kids growing up like that to be something that we're not, somewhere we're not, getting something that we think we need. This insatiable craving, these insatiable cravings for more and more and more and more. It's like, true, we use drugs and alcohol and all the et ceteras to avoid feeling those feelings and hearing those tapes replayed over and over and over again. It's like playing music louder so that we don't hear the dirge our head is singing. You know? True, but it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because it is through truly getting self-honest, facing the feelings, and questioning the thoughts that we come to meet ourself and our higher power, intuition, whatever. And it is through climbing back into our own skin that we really end up free. But we don't know it, because what stands in the way are these little bodyguards of shame. These, you don't want to go here. You don't want to feel this. Nope, this will kill you. You know, be afraid. Be angry at that person. It's not your fault. It's everybody else. You take no responsibility for your own thoughts. If it wasn't for them, you would be okay. You know, and all of that says, don't look. Whereas recovery says, look, let's walk through this. Because otherwise we could be, there's this spiritual saying I love. It says, busyness is a defense against God. That you could be so busy and you could lie to yourself, right? And you could tell yourself, that means I'm important, I'm needed. If I'm busy, you can't look at what I'm doing. My feet are moving too fast. Can't catch me. Feet are moving too fast.
It happens a lot.
Too important, too much power, too much money, too much whatever. Look better, have better, whatever. You can't hurt me. And yet, it's all this like, this fake veneer. It's like, it's not even reality. And so we're alone in it, and we could get hurt constantly, because when we slow down or we let anybody in, that toxic shame is right behind that outer false self that's trying to show that it's all smoke and mirrors, trying to show it's got it all together. And the moment you catch a feeling or something gets triggered in this bubbling that's behind the facade, it's the other person. It's this, I can't let anybody close, I can't do this, I can't, whatever it is, this is too much. But what's too much is that it's not getting healed. We're carrying this toxic shame, and that's why it's incredibly important. And this is one of the things I love about your walk, is because there are so many people who will go through recovery and they will do the things that they need to do, the writing, the evaluation, the amends, and whatever. They will do these things, but will they really go deep and understand the deeper reason why they had these insatiable cravings? Just the word insatiable, incapable of being satiated. It's like we are proverbially always the horse, the racehorse that gets trained. I don't know if you know about when a racehorse used to get trained, what they used to do is they would have this stick that went out over the head, and they would have a carrot dangling in front of the horse so that the horse would chase the carrot. And so the horse would literally chase the carrot and run faster, trying to get it, and not get the carrot. Not get the carrot. It's like we are chasing carrots with these insatiable cravings. You know, where you think you need the new car, but you get the new car, not the car.
Yeah.
You need a different car. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Etc.
The great Carl Jung talks about a spiritus e spiritum, spiritus and spiritus. We try to feed our spirit with all those things, And you know, I'm grateful for Bradshaw. He taught me how to go in to the artifact that creates all the beliefs around that. And there's an artifact that was created, which is I'm no good. Maybe at the point of my first rupture, and then the second rupture, I go in and I heal those.
Yeah.
Everything begins to dissipate. But piling on top of those, all our beliefs are piled on to one or two artifacts of a core belief that we have that we're no good, and our whole life stems. And all of a sudden, we got these nine areas of our personality we're just driven to destruction in, and we never get a chance. And so our whole belief about ourselves is a collage of shame, and then I don't see anything else. Everything that's happening in the world happens through those lenses. And you know, at 12 years old, I just wanted to die.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's interesting too because because it's like the onion, more gets revealed. But we could go and we could work on ourselves and, you know, clearing up some of our wreckage, and then we could go through a period of time in our recovery where we could feel like, man, is that all there is? Because we didn't go deep enough yet to really face in ourselves what's driving the bus. You know, it's like we accept as fact that we're no good. It's not anything that we question. Everything that we're doing is to try to become better because part of us believes we weren't already that. We're not already, it's not already okay. We're not already lovable. We think we have to become lovable.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very easy to use all the things that we did in our addictions even as proof of why we don't deserve love. Sure. Right?
Yeah, and if we don't go back in and heal, here's where I see, because I've worked with a lot of people, I constantly see the key thing where people stop, they don't go deep enough.
Like, this is enough. This is relief.
Yeah, and they want to stop for whatever reason, but this over here is a rubber band to our upper limit. The toxic shame artifact, the hook that's holding the collage, that needs to be healed because it's the laws of the universe, abundance and all this stuff will continually slip through our fingers until we heal that thing. It is the rubber band to keep.
Yeah, because you can't succeed in certain ways, certain specific ways, if you have this malignant self-doubt. You know, you can't. And even if you have one area of your life that you feel very, very strong and abundant in, there are other areas where there are these toxic shame ideas that are keeping you. It'll always limit you because to the degree that we are not looking at what we're really thinking and what's really driving the bus, we are asleep to that degree. And everybody lives in some aspect of self-denial. Way into this process, I, at 25 years sober, have learned just in the past year, like, you're kidding. Like, this idea was driving that bus, like, just relationships alone. And I'm just like, oh my God, I could have had a V8. Are you kidding? But now it's like, wow. It's like eyes just a little bit more open, just a little bit more open. And you said, like, you don't know why they're not going, because the mind can only handle, it's been running from itself for so long, building up inner barriers to what it thinks it needs to quarantine in itself because it believes that there are parts of itself that are unacceptable.
Totally.
So it's like it takes finesse because it takes going through a process that felt like it was arduous and impossible of self-inquiry and facing stuff and facing people, and we didn't die and the world didn't come to an end and we are freer for it. And that gives us more inspiration and energy to look further. So we're going to take a quick break right now. Please remember that the opinions expressed here are strictly those of the people who gave them. and they do not represent any 12-step program or are meant to replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back. Thank you so much. The Meeting Space is a facility with over 100 weekly recovery meetings for addiction from alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, codependency, and PTSD. When someone is scared to go to their first meeting, we walk them through the process, ask them and answer questions to assuage their concerns. Many are court-ordered to attend, and we provide free court papers and teach them the process. Our glass-enclosed, soundproof children's playroom enables parents to be in a meeting while watching their children. We have healing workshops, craft fairs, and special authors who come to teach and sit with our fellowships. During COVID, we were declared an essential business by the County Commissioner's Office. We were kept open so that we can continue our daily work with traumatized chronic relapsers and those who would have used alcohol or drugs in isolation. Local businesses rent our space as well to financially help with this mission, and they get to have a great location for their business meeting or training. The Recovery Store in the center of our facility provides literature, clothing, medallions, and custom gifts to encourage, aid in, and celebrate a person's recovery from alcohol, drugs, PTSD, or unhealthy behaviors. Both the Recovery Store and the Meeting Space are open every day, including holidays. Saving lives, educating the community, reducing social stigma, providing a safe place for people to heal. Our nonprofit is supported entirely by donations by people like you who want everyone to have a place to go to heal. Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. So before the break, we took a really deep dive into the inner workings of our false self and toxic shame. And now we're just going to take a little bit of a detour real quick and just talk about, so Carter, when you were young and you were going through all this and then you're trying to interact with other kids and do what you're doing as you're growing up, I know you grew up with alcoholism in your family. When did alcohol and drugs first appeal to you? How old were you?
Well, when we could walk, like 2, 3, my parents had a lot of parties, and my family was the party house, and my brother and I would get caught, snatching, half drinking cups, fresh beers, and so we got the taste in our mouths at an early age, and through elementary school, 5th, 6th grade, I still a beer of my dad's here and there, but the real thing happened when I was in 7th grade, and I had a friend who was in 8th grade, and then he invited me to drive in with his older, brothers, and in high school, we went to the Palm Springs drive-in, and they had 2 bottles of Southern Comfort, and they gave me 1 bottle to take, here kid, take a sip, and I never gave it back. It just was over. And it had an immediate effect of like, oh, I'm fixed.
Yeah, because as we were talking about earlier, trying to outrun the thoughts and feelings that were building up behind us, it's almost like this snowball that becomes this avalanche behind us, and we wanting to outrun the snowball coming down the hill at us. Now you found alcohol changed that, at least for the moment, helped you to do the thing you were trying to not feel and not be there, right?
Yes. Yeah, and at the same time, be there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay there.
Yeah.
In the moment where you are all okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm okay too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that other guy's not okay. But we just buried him for a minute.
Yeah.
And
we'll get back to him later.
Yeah. So, it was, and then I made the adjustment, because that threw me into like a 3-day hangover, 5-day hangover. And my parents were in Mexico at the time, and I had a babysitter, so there's no real trouble there as far as, you know, whoa, what'd you do happen? And so then I'm like, okay, next time, don't drink Southern Comfort. And not that I could, because I was really sick. And then the next time, you know, try half of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was 12, so now I'm trying to make justifications on. I didn't say, oh, I shouldn't ever do that. That was terrible. That never crossed my
Right.
mind. It was like, now I'm on the hunt to get fixed. And as I approached 15 and 16, you know, 15, I had some friends that smoked pot. I tried that. Yeah, I'm allergic to THC, so I had some really just
Allergic, like what happened?
allergic. I pass out, I black out, I throw
Oh,
up,
interesting.
I sweat,
How come
I
I never
get
knew that about
hallucinations.
you? Interesting.
Yeah, and I kept trying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm like, you two guys, I can't hang out with you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't work for me. I don't know how we could. Even my friend would pick me up to go to high school because he was a year older than me, and we'd pick up another friend, and we'd jump in the desert real quick, and they'd smoke like 5 bowls, and I'd be like, I'm like, not even one puff, and I'm like sweating and blacking out and throwing up, and I'm just like, how do you guys do it? You
Yeah.
know, it wasn't for me. You know, but
Okay, so then, but you tried other drugs though, right?
yeah, the meth, you know, that seemed to work good with.
What attracted you about meth?
I could keep, well, at the time, I keep my head about me and didn't feel intoxicated, so to speak, and could work more.
Yeah.
You know, and
The
do more.
overachieving.
The overachieving.
It's so interesting.
It
If
fed
you really
right
look
into.
deep, it does. You like
It's-
if you find out what your drives are, what's running the bus. It's so interesting how there are certain drugs that we're attracted to based on what's going on with us. I mean, because everybody that goes into recovery doesn't have the same combination of alcohol, drugs, or whatever that they were attracted to. Like for me, one of my issues was food, you know, and so food was a huge problem for me. Food, alcohol, drugs. Did not have the same reaction to pot. I was a pothead. And so, but yeah, why are you attracted to the drugs you're attracted to specifically? For those that wanted to go up, they would go cocaine. For those who wanted to like numb out and check out and be anywhere but here, heroin. You know, like when you want to be able to be sharper, focused, and be able to do lots, meth. You know, if you're just wanting to like, if you feel empty and alone and disconnected and you feel low energy, food. Like there's so many reasons why, you know, you want to be part of, and you don't want to be self-conscious. Alcohol. Like there's so many different ways that we would, and then people who would do one drug so that they could do the other drug longer, like cocaine, so that they could do alcohol longer. Yeah. Or go up and I overshot that mark. Now I gotta have, you know, something to take me down. But what's driving the bus is this stuff that you mentioned earlier, this need to, you know, like I like to say, be anywhere but here, anytime but now, anybody but me. But if you have toxic shame, it's these insatiable cravings, you know, this need to be somebody else.
Mm.
You know, how much of what we think that we're doing, we think we're doing it. How much of the things we think we're thinking and that we believe it even like value, we are actually doing it, and it's not just it's not just thoughts we thought a long time ago and have accepted as true. Driving the bus.
And therein lies the spontaneous contamination is the result of our behavior. But you know, those things driving the bus. And underachieving and overachieving, same problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know,
the shame hit.
Yeah, so underachievers or overachievers, same problem.
Yeah.
There's not like one's better because they're overachieving. It's the same.
Because you get the fear of your own imperfectionism. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it stems from the need for validation
Yeah.
and the rupture, the grieving
What's
spirit.
the point of doing it if
You know.
So how old were you when alcohol and drugs really started to become, how old were you when you started to like grok that it's not just something you do, it's actually something that's hurting you?
Sure. So I started driving at 16, and of course I've been working since I was 11, so I make my own money. And as soon as I got a vehicle, I started buying beer. And I was never a heavy drug user as far as I think that's concerned. And, you know, periodically, it was in the 80s, so we got Black Beauties or some other. I like speed because I could drink a little more, I could get a little crazier, I could be funny. You know, I was always a happy drunk because that was my projected self. Is I'm happy, I want you to like me.
It's when you didn't have it.
You know,
yeah.
So that began like it was a party all the time with the Sing Boys. There's, you know, it's like we made parties everywhere in the desert, and that's just kind of how we rolled. And you know, we come from a good blue collar family, you know, and so we just worked for a lot, work hard, play hard kind of thing. But for me, like for an example, I had a lot of yets or good luck or whatever you want to call it, but I was pulled over 12 times drinking by the cops. Never got in trouble when other kids get in trouble. So all my friends are like, I'm riding with Carter. You know, pretty soon, like wherever in the midst of that chaos, it was a little safe. And so we get pulled over by the cops. I got 6 guys in there and 6 cases of beer. They're like, okay, pour it out, and then let us go on our way.
Wow.
And it was always, I'm drinking a case, or I'm getting a case plus I'm getting a bunch of, you know, mixed drinks, whatever we could buy, you know, or it was just mass consumption from 16 on. And here's the big thing. My high school sweetheart, we moved out right after graduation, and moving into anger and the need for validation. Anger stems from the need for validation, and when you're not validated, the eruption comes, you know, and it's a really unhealed and unhealthy way to try to communicate or get what you want out of this life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work too well. And so, you know, the first sign of like, and I don't communicate. I have a problem with intimacy, as you can imagine, and definitely then was at the worst. But we broke up, and I thought we were going to be together forever. And at that point, I hit another level of self-destruction. And then I bumped into a friend, and we went out to the desert, and he introduced me to speed. And I was like, oh, this shit's awesome. And then, because now I'm way out of I'm like into imagination. And so when the pain went away, I was into this. And then about a couple days later, I bumped into a bunch of friends at a house party. They're like, hey, Carter, move in with us. I'm like, okay. Because Carter makes money and he could pay rent. And then speed was just prevalent. So we had a party. The dealer came down, and somebody gave me another line. It was really good. And I said, where's the dealer? You know? And they said, he's back there. So I went back there and said, hi, I'm Carter. You know, how does this work? You know, because I knew right then I was addicted, and I was going to let it run its course. And I was like, how does it work? Because I'm not going to pay for it. You know what I mean? And I know 5,000 people. I'm going to sell it. And, you know, I did. And that exploded. And so, you know, and then my first experience with it lasted 30 days awake. So I was aware, like I didn't go, I was, at 3 weeks I was afraid to go to sleep. And then I was like, okay guys, I'm going to sleep now. At 30 days, they're like, I'll wait till 30. I'm in insanity immediately, you know, because of all the woundedness. And, you know, and then mass sexual dysfunction and just absolute chaos in my life at 18 years old to, you know, 22. Like I said, there was a period of time there where it was meth, sex, work. I mean, I never didn't work, but, you know, I would be like, okay, 1 month was too long. I'll do 3 weeks. I did 3 weeks for like a year, and I could sleep like 10 times in a year. And it was just insanity.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, maybe that's too much. I'll do it 2 weeks at a time. And just all this in this craziness, and then a lot of sexual dysfunction. But you could drink as much as you want. Like you never got drunk. You're really in a state of intoxication.
What do you mean sexual dysfunction?
Lots of sex, with
Because sexual dysfunction to me
well, okay,
is like
not
functioning.
Okay,
Sex.
actually, it's overfunctioning. Overfunctioning, and and
So when did you get sober? Like when did you get to a place, and what happened around that for you to how old were you? Because I know you got sober young the first time, right?
I did, and after about 4 or 5 years on meth, and I was like, I'm gonna die, and I'm like, I need to leave, and I had a best friend at the time, and we're trying to quit, and after like 2 or 3 months of us trying to quit together, I'm like, I gotta go. Everyone's on their own path. I can't quit with anybody, and and if I do this anymore, I'm gonna end up in a rut. And so I called my aunt and uncle, and in Concord, California, or Pittsburgh, in the East Bay up in San Francisco, and because they had been asking me to come up, I said, want some company, and then they knew I come up in rough shape. It took a couple of weeks for me to detox, and then I went back to work, and I slowly. I mean, my aunt helped me get my licenses, my driver's license, and pay my debt to DMV, just stuff, that I hadn't taken care of because nothing was taken care of, and in my life. And so I stayed sober I didn't do meth for a year, but I started drinking, and because they drank wine, and then pretty soon, we're doing. My uncle was he had a prominent position up in the Bay Area, so we met a lot of people, and and my disease was in full force. My sickness, my woundedness was, I hurt my aunt so much. She had introduced me to her good friend as a girlfriend of mine. There was an age gap, of course, and she is a beautiful human being, and I hurt her so bad because I just didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to love, and God bless her. She's a good woman, and I did that to a lot of women. I had no idea how to establish a deep connection or anything. I mean, so many things, but so I stayed there a year, and then I joined the Navy, and I was in the Navy about 18 months. Well, actually, it started about a year. Probably took another 6 months for me to quit after they told me you probably ought to quit. And then they're like, you can't drink. And then to stop. Because, I'm having sex with all the women on base. Wives, husbands are pissed, boyfriends are pissed, and I'm just like, I'm a riot. I'm a wreck. I got no concept of anything good. I mean, they called me the All-American boy. They put me at the top because I did all the good things that an overachiever needs to do. But alcoholism.
But what happens is we live then in the superficial.
Yeah.
We never have any real intimacy, not with ourselves, not with anyone else.
Yeah.
Or like really true conscience about what's happening.
Yeah.
We just
I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I thought all those women just wanted to have sex with me, and it was their problem.
Mm-hmm.
Just really low things, or careless and destructive behavior. And so my sponsor, my mentor at the time was he's my work center supervisor, and he helped me with that. But after 13 months of that, I felt really bad because I didn't really do any work, any inventory, any internal looking or anything like that, or didn't know anything about reconciling, my behavior, and I wanted to check out. And so I went to my division chief in the Navy, and I'm like, will I get in trouble if I ask to go to rehab? And they're like, no. Can I see the skipper? And they're like, yeah, when? I'm like, right now. I couldn't take another day.
Mm-hmm.
I was ready to check out.
Yeah.
And so they sent me to Rhode Island, and I went through a facility there, And then I met another mentor over there who really took the time to help me with, all those things, inventory, amends, and, inward seeking and powerlessness and higher power. And, I found something there. Had some white light experiences that really enlightened me, made some amends and, forgiveness. And I emptied the bag of injustices, and I went back to my home group in Boston, and they didn't do book work there. So I thought, well, I had something. I was so special what I went through. I'm good. And then service. So and I got some. I took the instructions and I kind of did with it what I wanted. Instead of.
How old were you at this time?
I was 26.
26.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay? Because we have like about 10 minutes left of our show.
Oh man.
I know. How long did you stay sober before?
My first relapse? 14 years.
14 years. And then what do you attribute that relapse to? What do you feel like was happening in your head at the time when you relapsed? What do you think wasn't happening?
Well, I was dry.
Dry.
I had no sanity.
Yeah.
I had never healed anything.
You didn't go deep enough.
I didn't go deep enough.
So then how long were you out before you got sober again after that relapse?
I had 1 year 6 times
Okay.
after that.
Okay.
So I had 1 year on, 1 year off, or whatever.
And then when I met you, it was like 5 years ago, when you were just coming back.
Mhm.
And I knew like I had a special feeling about you, and like we had like a really deep conversation the first time that we met. And so what was different? What was different that time that made you go deeper this time? Like what was it?
I thought I hated every single inch of myself, or I come to understand that's not the way I felt, but
Thought that's how you felt.
In essence, that's I did not want to be me, and I had a gun to my heart at the time, and then I heard the words of great Creator, say something to me, and I got up on my feet, and I did what that instruction
It's kind of
was.
interesting too. So like we both shared also an affliction of sleep apnea and like breathing issues, right? And so when somebody has sleep apnea or breathing issues, it's caused by excessive exhaling, like too much carbon dioxide is leaving the body. Because even though they say, blow out that carbon dioxide, somebody who hyperventilates, and I don't mean like, oh my God, it's somebody who somebody who has a lot of stress will breathe more rapidly, more shallowly, but I find it interesting. So what happens is carbon dioxide leaves the body, and then our body starts to constrict because it wants to hold on to what it is that we're holding on to. And if all that it was too much, just look up the word Buteyko if you have any breathing issues with sleep apnea or asthma. But we had a conversation that day that I felt very clear we were supposed to have. And it's interesting that we both had experienced all that we experienced, the traumas, the childhood stuff, and whatever like that, and how much that plays a role in like letting go of our life force, letting go of that air, letting go and like getting to a place where we are feeling like we can't, like we don't have the energy, that we're depressed, we're not vital, like we don't have the vitality. And then so we had this conversation, and I said, you don't understand, like this corrected this for me, this practice of breath trade. And he ended up doing it because he was so deflated, literally deflated. And then he comes back and he's like, saved my life.
2 weeks. 2 weeks I was 100% better, and in a month I was 500% better.
Amazing,
or whatever.
right?
It was amazing, and I just continued to grow at that
But the
time.
whole psychology of at the time where, like you're not sure if you want to live, you hate yourself, you have this toxic shame, and you feeling like you're dragging yourself around through life, like you have just no inspiration, no energy. And like when now we're having a conversation, you're getting back into recovery, but the spirit is like ready to like want to live again, and it's then that the teacher student of like, I get to pass this on to you, this tool, that you're ready to come back alive. You're ready to then do a thing that retrains your body to be able to breathe properly, so that you're containing your carbon dioxide enough, right? How interesting. You
Very
know, and then to
interesting.
watch you over the past 5 years, like one thing after another, the reading, the workshops, the working with people, like you've been on fire. On fire. Very passionate. You were writing a book for a period of time. You were working with kids. We had you on an episode way back when about that. And the discoveries that I've watched you walk through about yourself, your preferences, your identifications, your everything. It's like, it's been wonderful, you know, like always looking for the solution now, you know, and wanting to share what you've realized, you know. They have a saying that we have a saying in recovery that some come for relief and some come for recovery. And sometimes, you know, we can go and we could do just what we think we need to do and no more, and we'll get relief. But over a period of time, if that's all we do, we tend to end up resting on our laurels, and we don't end up getting what's next. Another layer, let's go deeper, because how free do you want to be? How connected and conscious and awake do you want to be? Like you said, that rubber band to your higher limit. You know, like when our world's so small, it's like, okay, we'll feel these feelings, we'll deal with these things, and maybe we'll have a little bit of a better life. And then we heal more, and then maybe we'll have a little bit of a better life. But then some people will stay there, and their life stays like this. And they don't realize the power of the mind, and that we can like look at our thoughts and what's driving our bus and stopping us from really truly living the life that we could live had we not been running on these core ideas that we accepted.
Lies about ourselves.
And so like life's not like rosy all the time, and more gets revealed, and we walk through more stuff, but now you're more of an empowered walker through these things. I never see you, like you'll walk through something, marriage, divorce, whatever, right? But you get into acceptance quicker, you look at yourself deeper, you figure out more about yourself, you understand more, you share honestly and transparently. You know, even especially with the people closest to you, to say, yeah, so this is what's going on. So stay tuned. This episode of Carter Sing. You know, so it's wonderful. So yeah, so we are nearing the end. And I'm so grateful for this deep conversation that we just had. Because what we ended up learning in this time, that as we've gone on, you know, like former us would have been very happy to understand this stuff. So hopefully it was helpful to people watching this. But for a closing statement, whatever you feel comes to you from intuition, what would you like to say to somebody who may be struggling with, you know, depression or suicidal ideation or not believing in themselves or having like a really, really low sense of self, you know, not loving themselves, right? What would you say to that man or that woman out there that wants to go deeper in recovery or wants to even get into recovery, but really is kind of feeling hopeless?
You know, I was on the way to Malibu last weekend or the weekend before, and I had a guy with me that was fairly new to recovery, and he told me some of those things, and I said, listen, the first part is you got to stop lying to yourself. When those things crop up, you immediately say, those are lies, I'm not that person, and it's the beginning to equalizing yourself with, you know, we must equalize in order to accept and then begin to really look inside ourselves, you know, and say, you know, those things aren't true. I got some woundedness. And if I can look at that, what's caused the woundedness, some magical things can take place, you know, and there's a lot of good books out there, and and 12-step programs are awesome, you know, and
In theory.
you know, so,
Yep.
and,
Yes, and recovery books, therapists, 12-step recovery, other versions of group therapy, everything. Just avail yourself, because when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And then when you're ready to face the next thing, the teacher appears. And when you're ready to face the next thing, the teacher appears. And you have everything that you need to walk through what you need to walk through. It's the belief that you don't that's been this rubber band that stops you from going past. So thank you so much. I
Thank
love you
you,
very
too.
much.
I love
And
it.
keep doing what you're doing, because you're an inspiration. And thank you for joining us on the Real Recovery Show. If you'd like to be on a future episode, please hit me up on themeetingspace.com through our contact form. And please share this or like it on whatever platform you're watching or listening to this with other people, so that we can get the message out. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Awesome.